You decide the ending.
Choose your own adventure. This is Choose Your Own Adventure, Dungeons and Dopamine.
Special edition.
Special
Missing
edition.
person.
Episode 33. You choose. Which one of us ends up alive at the end?
Dun, dun, dun.
Both of us end up alive.
Pretty please. Pick option 3.
The knife at the bottom of the stairs.
It's just going to be Stella using it on us anyway.
Shoot. She's just going to bark up the stairs with it in her mouth. So, hi. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Dungeons and Dopamine.
Ta-da!
Episode 33, I'm Jess.
I'm Bre.
Welcome to our Dungeons and Dopamine experience.
Yeah. Yes. We are going to make it an experience now.
Yes.
How can we like really get to all 5 senses as a podcast?
We have people come to my house and sit in this bathroom while we talk at them.
Yes. I have always wanted an audience that stares at my back.
No, I figure we'll sit in the other room and just stare at them through the doorway.
We'll turn it around on them. Make them host the podcast.
It's going to be perfect.
I feel like this really encompasses like 6 or 7 senses now.
Absolutely. It's fear
Look.
sense because they're going to have it.
Yes.
Oh, I just punched the table. I don't know if anyone could hear that. I'm so full of rage. New year, new me. So it's what? Okay, so we're mid-January right now. So the 17th, I think, is when this episode actually does its thing.
It's so weird to live in the future. Or
I
the
quite like
past.
it.
I still can't figure out what way we're time traveling because
look, this is
technically
a choose your own adventure. You can be what you want.
because our voices are in the future, but we
they're in our
don't know
present.
any of the future happenings except for
Except
all
for
of
that
those
we
things
do.
we predict. True.
I'm just waiting for Pedro to... Maybe he'll be the one that walks up the stairs with the knife.
Perfect.
And he'll be like, gross, you can't leave this knife laying around.
This is unsafe.
And then he'll give us sushi for lunch. And then he'll kiss me on the head. I'm sorry. I was going to say kiss us on the head.
I mean, if we have to sister wives Pedro, it's fine.
he's worth it.
Yeah, it's fine.
It might make Ryan feel better about the whole situation.
I'm sure Zach will be fine.
Mm-hmm.
No worries there.
We can share him with Zach, too.
Oh, yeah, even better. Do you think he does things around the house?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, then Zach's in.
I mean, he's Daddy Pedro, so... or is Zaddy Pedro, I think he is now. I think they've added a Z. I don't know.
That is something I do not keep track of. Sorry.
For, once in my life, I have no words.
We've just run out. It just... There's nowhere to go from there.
Fade to black. Which, because this is a podcast and we're just sitting up here recording, is us closing our eyes.
I just lean back in my chair, close my eyes. Just radio silence
And then
for the
you
rest of the episode.
Because we're reaching for our
crunch.
treats. Because I'm going to sit back in my chair with my eyes closed. I need to have something to eat.
Well, yeah, but not grapes.
No, not 12 seconds. Not 12 in a second either.
That would be really hard.
I don't know what made me think of this. Like, I guess I kind of do, but it's because my brain is a hot mess of spaghetti noodles. Have you ever heard that the women's brains are spaghetti and men's brains are waffles?
No.
It's very interesting,
What?
actually. So the idea is that women, I mean, we're a little different because we're ADHD, but women's brains are like noodles because we think of something and it leads us down the path to something new where all of our thoughts are connected even though they might not seem like it. Like, I was just about to talk about someone named Jags the Whipper on TikTok who literally whips. He's like a Run Fest, like,
Oh.
travels around and does Run Fest stuff. And
Thank you for clarifying.
He's. I didn't even think of the other options here.
He just whips things on TikTok. Just another reminder that I could be doing so much better if I could just find my niche on social media.
Oh, okay. How about this? He's the Indiana Jones of TikTok.
Is he the one that's a circus performer?
Kind of, yeah. Yes, oh my gosh, yes, the one I sent you that you were like, oh my gosh, okay.
I love this video, but if he says it again, I'm going to shoot him.
Punch him. He's the one with the fake mustache drawn on.
Okay.
Anyway, so he tried to show people why it's really hard to pop a balloon with a whip. So I was going to talk about that, but now this is way more interesting.
Now we're on noodles.
So, I noodled from...
I'm going to use that.
Grapes that you talked about last week in your episode, and how people try to eat 12 in 12 seconds, or 12 bongs, or like dings. I'm leaving that in.
Yep. I'm not even going to make a munchies joke.
I have literally something called munchies as a snack right now. Oh, okay.
Beautiful.
So I took your grapes and I thought of world records, and then I thought of this random video I saw of Jacques, and I noodled from grapes to shoo, 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 down the noodle to Jacques the Whipper. And men are more like waffles, where at one time they have access to one square, and what's in that square is what they are thinking about right now, where they're thinking about, like, maybe the garage needs to be cleaned. We might think the garage needs to be cleaned, and then I will be able to pull in my car, and then, oh my gosh, I've got to get my car washed. They stop at the garage needs to be cleaned.
Unless they're my husband.
And mine is like that as well. But
Do you guys
it's more of
play
like
the tangent game? So now I'm going to call it the noodle game.
The noodle game?
But so we'll be completely silent, or we'll be talking about something and then we're silent for 10 seconds, and then one of us will be like, hey, I forgot to tell you about the noodles. And the other person is like, okay, tell me how you got there. And we backtrack like, okay, well, I was thinking about dinner and that reminded me of spaghetti and noodles.
I do think that it's a little different in ADHD people. I don't know if the book touches on that, but I do like the idea because it is very hard for women to relate to men when they can't think of more, like, okay, well, you got to get the garage clean, but you also need to get gas in the car, and then while you're out, you might as well get the car washed. Mm-hmm. They might forget to wash the car if they even remember to take the car out to get gas, because they've been focused on this one box, which is
the garage
clean.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually like a relationship help kind of book, because it's sort of like that women are from Mars, men are from Venus. No, women are from Venus, men are from Mars. Stella just corrected me on that.
You're wrong.
Shut
up. She's the best editor.
She's a bad dog. That's a lie. Anyway, yeah, I love the noodle.
Yeah.
It really has helped. Like, Ryan is a noodler as well. He can't. He's ADHD. He can't help it. So a lot of times he does understand that. The biggest problem we have as noodlers is that oftentimes we won't ever finish that conversation about
oh my
ninjas.
Gosh. Yeah. And then nothing ever gets decided, or groceries never get bought, because I'm like, let's order the groceries, and we're like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
We get through like 6 things, and then I'm like, oh, remember we were going to have that for dinner? Where's that recipe? And we go to find the recipe, but it's in the cupboard, and we get distracted because we find yeah. Yep. Do you know who murders people?
The guy in my downstairs.
But not the dog man of Michigan.
No, the dog man of Michigan, I'm sure, is absolutely great.
Mm-hmm. Especially to us.
Oh, absolutely. He better be. Mm-hmm. Look at all the promotion he's gotten.
He's going to be the most popular 7-year folklore ever. He's going to be so excited in 2027.
Which is coming.
Yeah.
Round the mountain.
In 3 years or so. We're patient enough for that, I swear.
Absolutely. Anyway, so
episode 33.
3. Yep. And I don't have a good transition. Surprise. Dogman, Michigan has never been to Panama
because he lives in Michigan.
But these girls have been to Panama. Bum, bum, bum. Argyle, we need you. This is your time to shine.
I'm going to be really disappointed if there is no bum, bum, bum or dun, dun, dun.
Bum, bum, bum. He loved that song. He was so proud of himself. He better put it in there. So, this might be something you've heard of. This is a very, very popular story. I believe it happened in 2014, April of 2014.
That is not long ago.
Mm-mm. So this is a story of Chris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. They are both Dutch. Chris was born in 1992, and at the time of the incident, she was 21 years old. Lisanne was born in 1991 and was 22 when this happened. The girls were really opposite of each other, which kind of made them perfect together. One was a little bit more shy and withdrawn, but very organized and very thought out for things, and the other was a little bit more outgoing and off the cuff. So they worked really well together. They met in the Netherlands and they worked together. And they were your typical, young adults. They wanted to have some adventure. That point in your life where you're like, I probably need to, change.
I should have some experience in my life. Mm-hmm.
They decided they were going to visit Panama together. So they found a program where they could teach children English in exchange for their lodging. So pretty cool. Mm-hmm. They saved up for about 6 months to take this trip. And the first time their parents met each other was when they left, when they were at the airport to say goodbye. They made it to Panama and stayed for 2 weeks in a hostel. They spent the time there learning the language, Spanish, and they made some friends. They made some friends with a couple of other, I want to say Dutch immigrants, but I might be wrong. Anyway, these two guys that were kind of traveling through.
Okay. Were they all staying at the hostel together?
Yeah.
Or? Okay.
Yeah, and they would hang out and just do as young people do. Mm-hmm. I'm now old enough to say this.
I mean, they were only 21, and that's a lifetime ago, so.
It was absolutely. So, after that 2 weeks, they were supposed to start teaching at the school. They went to their host family. They were staying in a home of another family. This family had hosted for 6 years, so they were very good at it. They knew kind of the ins and outs. Their lodging for the girls had an entrance and exit that went straight out of the house without having to go through the family's house, so it was really nice. The girls could come and go. They didn't have to worry about disturbing anyone. They didn't have to worry about the family disturbing them. It seemed really great. So they went to the school on that first day, and they found out that something had happened with their paperwork and the school wasn't ready for them. So they were pretty bummed, but they did figure out that they could start again. Weirdly, I guess the volunteer work stuff only begins on Mondays, so they had to wait an entire week before they could start again, which was kind of a frustrating thing for them. Would have been for me too. So they made some plans to go do fun stuff, touristy stuff.
Got some free time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Might as well live it up while you're there.
Yeah, might as well. At this point, the day they had arrived, Chris was really excited. She was really upbeat. She was really happy. She spent some time out speaking with the host family. Lisanne decided she was going to kind of hang back. She'd had a lot of social going on, and she needed some time for herself.
Feel a little overstimulated.
Exactly. 1,000% something you and I could understand.
Yep.
She wrote in her journal that she was struggling a little bit. This is a new place. She'd been away from home for 2 weeks, away from her family and friends, and that she was a little bit discouraged, not feeling as good. But the next day, her journal said she was feeling better, and she was going to try, and she was just going to do better. So, great on her. And then they did find out they weren't going to be able to teach at this school, had to do a bunch of footwork to figure out where they were going to go and what they were going to do. But they managed. So they decided the next day that they were going to hike a trail. So this trail was really popular. It was easy to traverse. As long as you stayed on the trail, you didn't need a guide. There were a lot of beautiful waterfalls and things off to the sides. So if you wanted to deviate from the trail, it was highly suggested that you have a guide with you.
Okay.
So they were just going to hike up hike back down. I assume it was up to the top of it was a volcanic mountain. So I assume they were going to hike up to the top, see it, and hike down. That's what I mean by up and down, because I just said trail. Sorry. So that morning they woke up, they had breakfast, they headed out, they took a taxi to the site where they were going to begin walking because it was a little farther from the house. Made, small talk with the taxi driver, no big deal. Got there, it was about 1:45-ish, and they started up the trail. So this is a pretty easy trail. They should have reached the top right around 3, been back down right around 5 or 6. The weird thing was, some people reported seeing them at 3:30. There was a restaurant at the head of this trail, and some people at the restaurant reported seeing them around 3:30 and even speaking to them.
Okay.
Super strange. And then reports from these different people were saying, some of them were saying they were going back up the trail, and some of them were saying they were coming back down. It's really weird. No one could...
I mean, people suck.
Yeah.
And memories are bad, but that's a lot of...
It's a lot of weird back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently this trail did go through practically people's backyards in some cases.
Okay.
So we just really don't know. No one can really piece together how they made it up and how they made it down. And some reports say that they brought the family dog with them, and some reports say they didn't, or they don't mention it, at least. So
okay.
That night, the reports that say they did bring the dog say that the dog returned back to the host family. The host family didn't really feel concerned. These were young women. They were on vacation.
They didn't have anywhere to be.
Right. So they just didn't worry about it. So they just kind of continued on their lives as normal. That next day, the host family went to work, and a guide showed up at the place where he was supposed to meet the 2 girls to take them on another trail hike. And he thought, well, this is strange. They're not answering. They're not here. They're not showing up. So he went to the school where they were supposed to work, where a very nice person in the office did help him to try and get a hold of them. She called the host family. The host family said, well, I've got a key hidden here. You can check and see if they're in the house. So they went in, and they did not. The guide and this woman went in, and they didn't find a different culture, because it's really weird to think that someone would come and go at your house.
The lady was like, oh, I'll just come with you to this stranger's house to look for these girls we don't know.
And the school was next door, so it's not like she had to travel a couple miles or anything. It's another thing that we Americans get way screwed up, because for me to go to your house, it's 7 minutes, and that's considered really close. And that's in a car. Right. So these 2 looked for the girls. No one was in the house. So they went back. The guide, decided he was going to call the cops. And the woman decided she was going to call a phone number on file for Lisanne. So this woman called Lisanne's number that she had left as like an emergency number, and someone answered and said, Lisanne is in Panama. Who is it? Who is this? Mm-hmm. And it turned out that was Lisanne's mother. Okay. And she, of course, panicked. Right. She called back. The office woman at the school explained that the guide had showed up. They had gone to find the girls. They couldn't find them. And the mother flipped. She called police in the Netherlands and also called Chris's parents. About that time that the Panama police finally began to take this seriously.
Probably because other people were getting involved.
Yes. So at this point, the girls had been gone just under 24 hours. They started hiking. They brought in helicopters. Lisanne's brother and a friend of his came to Panama. And Chris's parents came to Panama with detectives from the Netherlands, or investigators from the Netherlands.
Wow.
So,
can you imagine, like, going to the cops and being like, hey,
I need you to come to...
will you come to another country with me?
Even, like, we are in Michigan. Even asking a police officer to go to Canada. He'd be like, I can't cross the border.
That's not what we do here.
I know, right? It's very wild. Mm-hmm. They show up. These searches are ongoing. They hike. There's tons of volunteers, tons of people stomping around on the trails and stuff like that. They find nothing. They find no one who knows anything about the girls or that they can confirm the same stories, and they find no traces of the girls. So in June, they went, oh, I'm so sorry. They went on this hike April 1st.
Okay.
Or April 2nd. Hang on, before I say that with all of my confidence. Okay, yeah, it was April 1st. So they went on this hike April 1st. Way for me to bury that. So in June, finally, after nothing, the Dutch police called off the search.
Holy cow.
April, May, June. That's so long.
Mm-hmm.
And they still haven't found their... Anyway, okay, so that's rough. About 2 weeks after the police called off the search, a backpack showed up on the side of a river where it had definitely not been before. And this was a kind of a random woman that lived along the river who called it in and said, hey, I think this might be someone's backpack. So after this long, the backpack should be kind of tattered and waterlogged, and it looks like it's in the exact same condition it left in. Inside the backpack are some sunglasses, a passport, 2 bras, 2 cell phones, money, a digital camera, and a few other odds and ends. There are 31 different sets of fingerprints on this backpack. And I don't mean full sets, of course, but 31 fingerprints, different fingerprints of different people.
On and none of them that has been in the river.
Yeah. Now, the cell phones, they say that they were in a zippy bag, so it could have protected them, but that's almost 3 months in a river.
Right. Or near a river.
Yeah. And the backpack should not be, like, it should be sunbaked. It should be tattered. It should be covered in stuff.
Right.
I mean, it's just not right. So they take a look at everything, and everything was packed very nicely and in good condition. So 31 fingerprints on the bag, 12 different fingerprints on the phones, 6 different fingerprints on the bras, all different sets, all unidentifiable.
Whoa.
So, of course, this spurred all new searches, which is great. A few days after the backpack was found, a 12-hour walk from the backpack, they found some bones and some shoes. Oh, and a pair of shorts. The shorts were Chris's. Some said they were found folded up on a rock very nicely and neatly placed there. Some said they were found floating in the river. All of this kind of proves that the scenes of these findings were handled horribly. Did they find them in the river and someone folded them and set them on the rock?
Right.
Did they find them on the rock and someone was holding them and dropped them in the river? I mean, that sounds comical, but
yeah. Like, why are there repeating stories?
Yes. They found that the bones were Chris's, and in the shoe was a fully intact foot that had been sliced cleanly through the bone. You couldn't tell what it was. It was very clean cut. There was no markings of what might have cut it, but it was definitely cut and not, like, chewed.
Right. Ripped.
The foot was Lisanne's, and the weird thing about Chris's bones is that they almost look like they'd gone through some sort of chemical process. Some say bleached. Some say maybe a lime or something. Someone trying to maybe disintegrate or dissolve them. On August 29th, we're pretty far from when they were out, 4 months, they found more bones and skin.
Ooh, gross.
Yep. These were all Lisanne's, and they were all somehow in the initial stages of decomposition. They were writing a music.
They were forming. They also stumbled upon a lab.
A dog.
Okay. And does it say, like, how far away this stuff was compared to?
No, that I didn't have. It might have said it, but I didn't catch it if it did. So we're going to kind of rewind a little bit backwards to the cell phone analysis. Over 77 attempts were made to call emergency services from their phones. The first, which is the original day that they were out, Chris tried to call emergency, And 12 minutes later, Lisanne tried to call emergency, and then the phones were turned off for 14 hours. And then
Which could be they got lost.
Yep.
They called, and then they turned their phones off to conserve the battery.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, there's perfectly logical explanations for that. And that's sort of the pattern for a few days. And then on 2/4, the phones turned back on at some point. They'd been off again. They turned back on, so this would have been a month and 3 days after their original hike. They were turned back on. The day after that, Chris, once again, her phone keeps calling emergency services. Lisanne's phone gets turned on over and over again. Turn on and off and on and off.
Weird.
It's a month later. Later on, in May, the phones are turned off completely. Chris's phone comes back on in that time period, and someone tries several times to enter a password with no success. The camera, not on the phones, because this was 2014, which doesn't seem like that long ago, but for phones, it really was.
It really, yeah.
The camera, so it was a digital camera. The photos originally are really fun and cute. They're the girls walking up the trail. You can see them making silly selfies, and there's a picture of them with their thumbs up, and they look happy. They look safe. Then there is a second set of photos that were taken in the middle of the night between 1 and 4 a.m. on April 8th, so 7 days after they hiked. And these photos are all in the dark, and they're really weird. Some of the photos show the girls' belongings just spread out on rocks with plastic bags and like candy wrappers and stuff piled up. Mounds of dirt, a mirror, and there's some really random shots of like the pathway and stuff, but not taking it as like this is a pretty thing. I want to take a picture of it.
But
just
like, here's
really
a
random.
pathway.
Yeah, and like angled weird and stuff. And then the most concerning photo of everything is the back of Chris's head. Some people analyzing it said they could see like wounds and stuff on the back of her head. When I looked, and I tried to watch one of the analyst videos, and it looked like hair. I mean, it did not to me. I couldn't see any wounds.
Especially, cameras weren't great.
No.
In 2014.
And it was nighttime, so flash photo.
Right.
So it was weird. I felt like the guy trying to show these wounds was full of it, but who knows? One of the theories of these photos is that they were trying to see the trail, so they were flashing to get the light, and that makes sense. I mean, even the picture of the back of her head, if she had stepped in front of Lisanne taking the photo, it would have been the back of her head. But they're
trying not to waste cell phone batteries, so they're using their camera. Okay.
Yep. But it's really concerning. Like, they're really off-putting, especially after you see all these really fun and great photos of them. The other really frightening thing about the photos is that it's digital camera age. You could delete photos on the camera. If you deleted a photo on the camera, you can get it back. So between the photos of them having a good time and these weird photos, there is one photo missing. But it is missing as though it was deleted off with a computer, which is permanent.
Oh.
So
they can tell that there's one, because pictures are numbered.
Yes.
So
it goes from like 508 to 510 or something along those lines. Yes. And who knows? Maybe that could have happened by dropping the camera. The camera didn't look damaged, but who knows?
Sure.
You don't know what happened while they were out there. So there is no third party that you can see in any of the photos. The Dutch press finally came to the conclusion at this point that the girls just died in an accident. There are things called monkey bridges on some of these trails. They thought that the girls went off trail looking for the waterfalls, and they found a monkey bridge and tried to cross, and they got hurt. And the monkey bridges are literally ropes that you have to cross, which might be metal. They might not be rope. So that could explain a foot.
Yeah.
I mean, as grotesque as that is. Lisanne's family seems to have accepted this and mourn their daughter and kind of want to move on, where Chris's family does not and will not. So some of the other theories are that the girls were attacked by a criminal and disposed of with chemicals, and that's why...
And spread out.
Yep. And another is along the same lines. They were kidnapped for human trafficking, specifically organ sales, because it doesn't look like the girls faced any sexual assault, or cannibal tribes. Which,
yeah. I mean, there's things we don't know.
Yeah. There's a theory that the woman at the school knew something. She ended up changing schools right after this happened and then moving back to Germany. The theory doesn't say that she is involved, but that she maybe overheard something she wasn't supposed to hear. And that maybe the guide who, because he went on a lot of the searches and stuff as well, that there's a theory that he may have been involved.
Because that does seem a little over and above, right?
Yes.
Like these girls you don't know show up for...
They don't show up
tour,
for
they don't show up for a tour they booked.
Yeah.
I assume this happens all the time to guides, and they're probably like,
yeah.
oh, stupid tourists.
Right, how annoying.
Move on with my day.
Yeah.
Not, oh, I'm going to go search their house.
So, and the other weird thing is that the lady who found the backpack was somehow involved with him. Not romantically or anything, but they knew each other.
Oh, that's weird. Hey, I had this backpack at my house. Can you pretend you found it by this river?
Exactly. He has a lot of... This guide is very well respected. I never learned his name purposely because the people who I got a lot of this information from didn't share it. And I agreed that because this is something that you can't accuse someone.
Right.
By
and
name
the
that you
internet
don't know.
sucks.
Yeah.
So somebody would.
Right. So this guide has really great TripAdvisor reviews, except for one. Shortly after a trip in 2018, a girl came out and said that he was very forward with her. And then when she rejected him, he was very angry with her and told her he could hurt her and no one would know or something like that. There are some contradictory stories from him. Just things like he saw the girls before, he never saw the girls, he said hi to them, he never seen them, kind of back and forth on that. And then his marriage has been shaky, so kind of strange. He also does have a son who might be involved in gangs who they think he might be covering for.
Oh. Yeah.
So
he found the victims for his gang initiation or something.
Yeah, something along those lines. There was another guide who was involved in the search who said he saw them go up, but then he said he wasn't sure, saying that all Europeans looked the same.
Okay.
Yeah. But the other weird thing is that he was supposed to be their driver for a 6-hour commute between, I can't remember exactly where he was taking them, but if he had been their driver, he would have absolutely known.
Right.
Yeah.
It might have been them. I don't know. I only spent 6 hours with them.
Yep. And his signature move was to take a thumbs up photo with the tourists, which they are doing in one of their photos. That's shaky ground. Again, not somebody whose name we heard. This was just a fully different guy. This is where some weird stuff starts happening. There was a man found dead a few days after the girls, whose camera roll showed him and a buddy at a waterfall with 2 girls who you can't quite identify.
Ooh.
Thoughts maybe he was involved in gang activity. He got found, the girls got killed, he got killed so that he wouldn't talk. The guy that was with him also found dead 1 year later.
Ooh.
And the taxi driver that brought the girls to the trail was found dead 1 year later. And his was really weird. He dropped people off to go swimming. They went swimming, and when they got back to the taxi, I guess he was waiting for them. He was face down in a shallow pool of water, dead.
Weird.
So there was a $30,000 reward for any information. The backpack people never got the reward. That's just another thing that is real weird about the case. Everything about the case was sloppy and mishandled. The bones, everything was handled by dozens of people before it was ever documented. It's just...
Right.
And then a lot of the photos were edited for better viewing. Like, why didn't you... anyway.
They saved over the original.
Yeah, exactly. Just them like, yeah, we found the camera. In November of 2022, the guy who was found dead but had a photo of him with 2 girls at a waterfall, his mom was interviewed. She said she believed that there was foul play, that the gang was involved, and further, I guess, proven by the fact that the gang interrupted her son's funeral.
Oh.
She said her son was killed because he knew what happened to the girls. She said the friend was murdered a year later because he was close to coming clean. She said that the gang found the girls while they were on the trail and took them partying. Then after they rejected advances, they killed the girls. And then they've been trying to pick off everybody who knows anything since then.
That feels very feasible.
I agree. I think that feels more feasible than one of the girls being hurt, especially with how long they were alive.
And the backpack. Like the backpack showing up later just tells me that somebody had it and needed to get rid of it.
Yep.
And placed it there.
It's really disturbing.
And the taxi driver ending up missing. Like,
yeah.
Maybe whether or not he was connected, maybe he remembered that maybe he had told the cops that he wasn't sure it was them because the gang members came and visited him and they were like, no, you didn't see them. And he was like, yeah, you're right.
Right.
And then a year later he was like, well, but I did see them. And they were like,
just
no,
started
you
to
didn't.
eat at him. And maybe, as he saw more and more of the footage and the families crying.
Yeah. Thought about it some more. He was like, oh, no, I'm pretty sure it was them. And the gang members were like, bye.
Yeah. Yeah. So I heard this story and it really bugged me. I might have gone on a little longer than I was supposed to, but I wanted to get kind of all the details. And I know they're a little discombobulated, but it's such a messy thing.
Yeah.
It was so bad. So for my really quick, I'll share these really fast, safety tips on this one. I did traveling. Mm-hmm. Never let anyone say your hotel room number out loud, and never say it out loud yourself. If the front desk says, okay, here's your key for room 301, request a new room.
Fair.
Right? Straight up. Don't feel bad.
I would not think of that.
Don't feel guilty that you're making them do something. You deserve that safety. Mm-hmm. They are not supposed to do that. Or if you want to try and circumvent it before they say it, say, can you please write my room number down and not say it?
Right. Yeah, very logical.
Very reasonable. Yeah. Bring alarms for your doors and locks. They have a lot of them now. You can watch different reviews and different debunkings. Mm-hmm. I've watched videos of people unlocking some of those. So watch, get what's best, and
there's
what will
even
work
just
for
like
you.
an extra doorstop you can buy.
That alarms when it gets pushed.
Yeah.
So study the area before you go so that you know what's around and maybe have a backup plan. That hotel seems shady, get out, go to a new hotel. That's it. Keep your family, your friends, your coworkers informed of what you are doing, when and where. Silly as it is, walk confidently and with your head held high. Make eye contact with people. You don't have to be polite. You don't have to smile at them. You're just showing that you're too confident for them to come get you.
And that you're not looking lost and scared and confused. And
Yep. Immediately, as soon as you get into your room, check it out, check it over, look for anything out of place, and then turn on the TV to a low volume so that people cannot figure out how many people are in your room. Mm-hmm. Check the exits in your hotel and around your room. Keep an eye on your luggage and be aware with people who you're speaking with. Don't tell that guy on the airplane your plans for your trip or why you're traveling. He might ask, and
or
you can
where
say,
you're staying.
Yep. You don't know. That guy might be real trustworthy. He might be a great guy, but that person behind you or across the aisle from you might not be. Mm-hmm. Those are some of my tips. If you're going to travel, especially if you were going to travel alone, man or woman, doesn't matter. Look tips up and be safe and pay attention to your surroundings and your instincts. You don't have to be polite.
That's a big one. I'm glad we keep touching on that one.
But that's it. I saved the pencil.
Like to end this on a chewing note. Yummy. That one's weird.
Bring us up. I love that.
Yes,
we're doing this.
Let
today.
me fix this.
Today alone in my upstairs.
After talking about how there's a murder sword at the bottom of the stairs. A blunt murder sword. So it'll hurt the whole time too. Thanks, Jessica.
Hey, look. Stella will let us know.
She is good at that. So if you want to resolve to being better at your personal safety while you travel, I have some ADHD New Year resolution tips.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of.
Oh. Ooh, no.
And this actually will be a 2-part topic because it went on forever. And yeah. That's the only way I know how to transition that without using the dog man of Michigan.
Which is okay to do
yes.
every time. But
he's probably great at resolutions. I mean, he stays hidden for 7 years at a time. He's just the best.
He really is.
So last week I talked about why we have New Year's Day and how different traditions celebrate it, and that actually came from me trying to write this topic, which is about New Year's resolutions. And if you are anything like me, you either did not make a resolution this year or you've probably already fallen off that wagon. And people are probably still asking you, what's your New Year's resolution? Or what are you looking forward to in the next year? And you probably hate them, both because it's small talk and you hate small talk if you're anything like me. And also because you may have already failed, or you always feel like you fail at resolutions. And so it makes you feel bad. And that's gross.
Stop making me feel bad.
So I pretended to give up resolutions years ago. I want to say the truth would be that I just don't speak them out loud anymore, or I kind of rename them or rethink about how I approach them. But honestly, it still exists in my brain. So I do want to preface with, I do love the new year. I love the optimism of a new year and being able to kind of like freshly reset. But I also want to just kind of freely admit that this year I'm kind of in a limbo pattern with some health things going on, which then leaves my job situation in kind of a limbo. So it really was a year where I could not make any resolutions, or I could not really think forward for the future because I have no idea what my future looks like this year. I mean, obviously, it's not anything. I don't plan to be dead by the end of the year or anything crazy, but it could significantly change how my year goes. And let's be honest, with someone with ADHD, I've never been able to really keep a resolution. It's beat into our brains that all you have to do is keep a habit for 21 days. If you can start on January 1st and make it to January 22nd, you'll be set for life. You'll have completed the time it requires to make your brain feel like this is a routine. But number one, routine makes me itchy. But also, one glitch in that system, one day where I don't continue that routine, and all bets are off. It just completely disappears. And when you live a chaos life like I do, there are always glitches. There are always roadblocks. Something is always messing up my 21-day routine. And I'm not saying this is unique to me. I'm not even saying this is unique to ADHD. Obviously, people don't really want to lose weight or live healthy or keep a sparkling home or live more frugally, because if they did, we wouldn't have a whole holiday based around trying to improve yourself. But the rumor is, for most neurotypical people, they can pick a resolution like I'm going to walk 10,000 steps a day, and if they do that for 21 days, they get into a routine, their brain actually starts to enjoy it, and then suddenly they're choosing new goals, like I'm going to walk 15,000 steps a day. So this is going to be the neurodivergent friendly version of resolutions. And for this first episode, I'm kind of going to talk about some tips and then expand on what I call a theme resolution instead of just a regular resolution. And I went to a couple different ADHD friendly websites to find these different tips, and it's nothing new. It's probably stuff you've heard before. So, if you want to look any of this up, you can Google it just as easily as I did. The first website I went to kind of summarized everything. Well,
you should just give us the name of the website, and we'll link the article, and then we'll end the episode here.
Just be like, thanks, go to these 3 websites, read them in their entirety, and you will be able to keep any goal you want.
Report back on Facebook what you found out.
Please summarize it for me and put it in a 5-paragraph essay format so that I can read it. Thanks.
New year, new Dungeons and Dopamine.
You do the research and we read it back to you. I'm totally in for that. If anybody wants to send me pre-done topics, I'm all for it. Anyway, this is from it's called attitudemag.com, and it's ADDITUDE mag. So attitude. Clever. But basically, her first, she divided into 10 different things, but I'm going to summarize them into 3 different points. But when you are, if you are, I'm not saying you should do a New Year's resolution if you have already broken that trend and it's not something you want to do. But if you do want to set New Year's resolutions, make sure you're choosing small, realistic, attainable, and flexible goals. This feels self-explanatory. This isn't new for anybody, but you know that it's easier to consider losing 5 pounds than it is to lose 60 pounds.
It's so easy when you're excited to make big goals.
Yes. And everybody wants to, by this time, my goal, and I even wrote about it. My goal last year at this time was to write a book this year. That was it. I told people straight out that I was going to have a book published by the end of this year. That is not an attainable goal for a number of reasons that I'll talk about. But it definitely was not a smaller, realistic goal that I could move forward with. And then the next couple of things is basically just recognizing your weaknesses and finding your workarounds. We know we have ADHD. If you're listening to us, you probably also have ADHD or some sort of neurodivergent tendencies.
Or you know somebody who does, and this is helping you figure out what they think.
Right. And we know we have weaknesses. I know I hate routine. I know I hate sticking to things. So I have to recognize that and set up things to help myself get through or keep going with a goal. I'll talk about more of these later, but, partnering up with somebody, using a body double, gamifying your goals with apps or competitions, or if you're me, finding a part-time job that somehow involves your goal so that you can just learn everything you know about it in that time. Finding ways to include your obsessions or your hyper-focus with your goals. I know last year you and Ryan looked into the virtual walks.
Yes.
And they had a Lord of the Rings themed one, they had a Tokyo themed one, and it fit in perfectly with what your interests are, which made you excited about it. When I wanted to get into riding a bicycle, I started listening to audiobooks while I rode my bike. So there are ways to kind of combine those things to make you forget about the awful thing you have to do. And again, recognizing that you do have some weaknesses, and you're just going to have to forgive yourself sometimes and start over or start from where you left off. And it's not the end of the world if you miss a day or you mess up or you don't complete it one week. I think we both, with the rejection sensitivity we have, and just, a lot of us being children that were perfectionists, we get so caught up in failure that we just kind of give up. And then the last part of it, reward your successes, think positively, forget about your failures, or at least reframe them so it's not a failure. It's, a bump in the road, or it's just a speed bump.
It's a really good time to reevaluate, once again, why you're doing it, how you're doing it. Maybe you're going too hard. Yeah.
Do you need to pick a smaller goal? Did you do something crazy, like decide you're going to write a book in a year?
Well, as I've gotten older, I find I can't exercise and do as vigorously as I used to be able to, which is a hard truth to come to.
I'm going to do 6 exercise classes this week. Yeah. And then by day 2, you're in so much pain you can't do the rest of the exercises. Yes. One good tip I read recently, I think we focus a lot on rewarding our successes or rewarding ourselves when we succeed. But this one talked about rewarding yourself when you start. And I'm not saying set a goal and tell yourself you'll be able to go to Disney World if you start the project. I'm saying if I'm going to sit down and write if I make a goal that I'm going to start sitting down and writing every day, maybe I reward myself with a Dr. Pepper to sit down and write.
Or you find that notebook that you've been eyeballing, that really nice leather-bound notebook, and that becomes where you put your notes for your story.
And the really nice pens to go with it. Yep. And yes, I've done that many times as well.
That is also an ADHD problem that I will admit, but
yes. Another idea I saw, especially if you're struggling with something like reading or cleaning or something that takes a lot of steps or has a lot of different parts, rewarding yourself after small sections.
Ooh,
so
okay.
This one happened to be somebody that was, going to college and needed to read a lot. So she'd give herself a gummy bear after every paragraph that she read.
She had them on her book, didn't she?
Yeah.
I've seen that one, and that's so smart.
So you see the reward in front of you, you have it to keep going.
Just don't do that if you're going to exercise. When I hit mile 0.2, I'm going to have a gummy bear, because that's a little opposite.
Right. Unless, this is also a good way to maybe slow down on eating treats or snacks or be more mindful about eating. A lot of like I'm sitting here with an open bag of potato chips and an open bag of gummy bears in front of me right this second. It would be smarter if I was maybe rewarding myself with one gummy bear every once in a while instead of just keeping this entire bag in front of me. Specifically in terms of setting a theme for a resolution, this is something I do, and I think
I love themes. You know this.
Yes. And I think this works really well for my type of ADHD brain. I will talk about some maybe downsides to it that wouldn't work if you are trying for very specific goals or if your brain works differently than mine. And I got a lot of these tips from another ADD play on words, adept.org or addept.org. So if you're going to choose a theme, you're picking something more overarching. You choose, I'm going to focus on my health. Some people just come up with one word. So in 2020, believe it or not, my word was cultivate before the year even started. Some people, maybe the word is love or success or even, money. But when you're choosing a theme or a word, you're still focusing on small, realistic, attainable goals, but it can be rather broad. So if your overarching goal is to focus on your health, you could sit down and think about what a healthier version of you does, looks like, feels like. These are probably going to be more, I know in the health world we call them non-scale values. So, I'm not going to say by the end of this month I'm going to be able to run a marathon, but I might say by the end of this month I'm going to be able to walk up my stairs without breathing heavy. So you're still setting these small goals, but you're not focusing so hard on a specific number to get to. Going back to my example about publishing a book, so that is kind of a specific goal, but it's also a very broad, large goal. It would have been better to break it down into maybe some micro habits, like I'm going to start writing 3 days a week. I have to write at least 500 words. Or I'm going to start going to this writing club that meets at the bookstore down the road.
Or even I'm going to start researching how to publish a book.
That was exactly my next sentence. Or, there goes my screen.
Because we could go as small as we feel like we need to. And then the wins are going to be even bigger.
Yes.
Because some days one month, you might be able to write 10 chapters and learn how to publish it. The next month, you might barely get out a chapter.
Yeah. Maybe I'm editing those chapters and I feel stuck. So yes, breaking it down into those smaller goals so that you have those bigger wins, or even making it more broad, such as I'm going to be published this year, or I'm going to get over my stage fright. And then some of the wins or the micro steps would have been, publishing my blog or starting podcasting, versus, I failed because I did not publish a book by the end of this year.
I also think it would be an interesting idea to give yourself permission to change.
Yes.
Because who thought we were going to podcast this year?
Yes.
But this does take a lot of our time. So one of my goals that I maybe don't enjoy as much, or I couldn't get to this year, could be replaced with the fact that I started a podcast this year.
Right. You have to allow yourself to be flexible and go with the flow or evolve with how you evolve. You can't get so stuck in the weeds that, I get into that too.
I know this is a two-parter because it does seem very big.
It does. So one of the pros to this more theme resolution or this overarching idea is it's more novelty. You're not choosing one goal that you have to stick with every day for the rest of the year, or every day for the rest of the month, or even every day. If you choose an overarching goal like I'm going to focus on my health, sure, you could choose one day to make sure that you get 10,000 steps in, but the next day you could choose to ride your bike for 15 minutes, or picking a salad over having a hamburger, or taking the stairs instead of the elevator, going for a walk with your friend instead of meeting them for lunch.
Well, I like that too because things happen. What if you, just sticking with health, what if you have a heart attack or break an ankle or break a wrist, or you find out you have a disease or disorder? Now I don't feel like I failed because I'm not losing 5 pounds this month, but I feel like I can still attain my goal because I can learn about this disease. I can learn what's best for me. I can rest my foot and let it heal.
I'm going to need you to stop stealing my thunder and having all the same exact thoughts than me. So my next point is the flexibility of being able to roll with the punches when something happens.
Should I cut myself out of that? So I've never talked about that.
And in this episode, Jessica steals all of Bre's thunder. No, I think it's great because it really does show, number one, it shows that our brains work very similar.
It's so scary.
And number two, it shows me that these are things that everybody struggles with.
They make perfect sense. It's just hard. I never thought about it before. I never thought about having a theme for my goals.
Mm-hmm. So, yes, the flexibility allows you to roll with the punches if something changes, if your health changes, if your situation changes. I specifically use if I get sick one weekend and my goal was to get to the gym 3 days that week and I make it 2 days and then I'm sick, I can say, well, it's still healthy if I give myself the rest I need to make my body stronger.
If your mental load was wildly disproportionate that week and your brain says no.
Yeah. And at that point, it might be healthier for me to go get a massage and relax than to push myself to go to the gym again and hurt myself because I overextend because I'm too aggressively lifting weights or something I probably would never do in my entire life. I also like that it's kind of multifunctional. So like when I use the word cultivate, it applied to all the different parts of my life. And if I use the word cultivate, it can apply to my houseplants. It can apply to my relationship with my friends or my family or my kid or my husband. It really allowed me to take one word and focus on how I could encourage myself throughout my whole life versus just, I'm going to walk 10,000 steps today.
Which is so limiting when you think about it.
And
so
with
limiting.
ADHD, I think we do get very stuck in the, if I set a goal, I am a competitive person. I want to meet that goal. If my goal is I'm going to go to the gym 3 days a week for the rest of this year and I get sick, I'm mad at myself for not being able to go to the gym. I'm not saying, oh, that's okay, I need to rest. I'm upset and I'm feeling beat down. What's the point? Every time I join a gym, I end up sick and then I can't use it and now I'm wasting money. Or it allows me to, have a busy week. And now I know that if I contribute to that by trying to push myself further and exercise 3 days that week, I'm going to end up in bed by the weekend with a migraine and completely out of sorts because I pushed my body too hard.
And you're going to feel horrible because despite achieving your goal, you're miserable.
Yeah,
that's horrible.
My body hurts. I probably did more damage because I was working out when I was already tired or I was sick.
I love this. I like themes.
Yes. So the cons, the downside to this type of resolution is it's super unstructured. It's not the way you want to go if you have if you had a heart attack last week and you need to lose 50 pounds to be healthy or to have a procedure done that will help you save your life. If you need to quit smoking so you can have a liver transplant or something like that, this is probably not the way to do it.
Or if you're severely type A.
Yes. If you need that structure or you have a very specific goal, this theme idea it's not going to help you win any awards for losing the most weight or walking the furthest, but you're probably going to stick with it a lot better or longer than you would if you choose the more structured way that I talk about next week. It's not for anything specific. It's also not going to help you, set new routines or really get yourself in a situation where you're making big changes. If you are a person that needs data to be able to continue on, if you need to know exactly how much weight you lose every day to be able to keep that motivation,
this
probably isn't going to work. So you have to really decide what kind of goals you have, how serious or how structured you need to be with these goals. And if you have a different type of ADHD than me or a different way that your brain works, this might not be the option. It might be too unstructured for you.
I love it. I think that's really cool because I never had thought of this.
Well, good. I'm glad I talked about it then.
That's so cool. I have so much to think about now.
Next week, I'll be quizzing you on what your resolution theme is. And
I would like you to tell us and then write several goals down on a piece of paper.
we're
that
going
you
to
can
map
share
it
with the
all
class.
out. And then we're going to make a vision board. And then we're
I
going
do want to make a vision board. All right. Well, this has been Dungeons and Dopamine Podcast.
And you can listen to us anywhere you stream podcasts and on YouTube.
You can support us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/dungeonsdopamine.
You can also find us on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit if you try hard enough.
If you find us on any of those, you can reach out to us and talk to us. Or or you can reach us at dungeonsdopamine@yahoo.com.
Dungeons and Dopamine, as always, is edited and published by Argyle Pigeon Productions.
And that's it. Thank you. We love you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.